You're listening to the Empowered Divorce Podcast, where you practice being the chooser in your life again, one day at a time. Thanks for joining me. Hello, my amazing listeners. I am so thrilled to share with you this conversation that I've had with a woman who cares big time about helping empower other women in the financial department. Oh, how we all could use a little of this. Before I introduce my guest and share our conversation, I wanted to remind all of you that today is the live Q&A session. If you haven't registered for that, head over to amiewoolsey.com, go over to Q&A. This is where you can come and be with others that are going through it, ask all the questions. I always teach something at the very beginning, so you want to show up on time if possible, because I share a tool, a concept, something that I feel will help you in your journey. And then I open it up to questions. So questions, comments, sometimes it's just nice to have a place to dump, to be heard, to be seen, to know that you're not alone in this journey. We are doing that today. It typically is the first Thursday of every month, but because of New Year's, it will be held today. If you've missed it because you're listening to this late, it's okay. Head over to amiewoolsey.com. Still register. It's a free registration. You'll get an email reminder before the next one so that you don't miss them. You also will get access to the recording. Those Q&As, again, are free. I do it every month to give you all some connection, a way to get in front of me, a way to meet me and to meet others, like I said, that are going through the same thing. So if you haven't registered for the Q&A already, be sure to do so. Also, another quick reminder about the Dating Within workshop coming up in a couple weeks, January 23rd. You don't want to miss that. Registration is open there as well. Show notes, you can find these links, amiewoolsey.com. You can find these links. Other ways to work with me, head over to amiewoolsey.com as well. All right. I'm really excited about this conversation today. I wanted to throw this one the beginning of the year. Some of you might be feeling the pressure of the finances right now. So I am hoping that being it is January and that many of you are probably coming off of the holiday financial stress, that this episode with Jennie helps motivate you and set you back on track. So here we go, my conversation with Jennie Connors. All right, today my guest, Jennie Connors, is a certified financial planner, professional and partner wealth advisor at Diversify Wealth Management. Jennie focuses on holistic wealth management in all areas of financial planning. She is so passionate, like I said, about working with others, especially women, to help them plan for and organize their financial future. She is a member of the Financial Planning Association. She has served as the Utah chapter president and board chair. She is also a regular guest lecturer at Utah Valley University and serves as the vice president of the U of U Personal Financial Planning Alumni Board. She enjoys teaching and serving in her community. The principles that she shares today are so beautiful. It's a great place to start when I know a lot of you are wondering, where do I start to get control over my money, over my future and money? And the things that she covers today, I think, are really beneficial. I know it's one of my longer episodes, but it is such a good conversation. I hope that you learned something from it. Of course, I hope you walk away feeling way more empowered. Here's my conversation with Jennie. So I would love for you to start by sharing your personal experience and how it led you to do what you do.
Okay, that is great. I would love to share that. And then in addition to that, just kind of the talking points moving forward, I would like to share kind of some economic principles that I learned along the way that really helped me to understand money. So I think that can really help with single women as they're suddenly single and looking forward to, how do I move forward, understanding what some of these principles are. So knowledge is, if you have some knowledge, then it's going to be better for them to start to be able to rebuild. So I thought I would share some economic principles there, and then also share some money personalities that kind of help us understand what is our money personality. How do we understand our relationship with money? Because people have different relationships with money. And so if we can understand what our money personality is and build on some economic principles, then we can actually make some decisions on moving forward and empower ourselves. So does that sound like an okay way to go?
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Very good. Then I'll go ahead and start with my story then, if that's okay. So I was late coming into financial planning. Way back in the day, I couldn't decide what I was going to go into when I was first going into college. So I was really good in math. So I like, okay, so do I need to go to engineering? But then I loved to perform and to dance. It's like, okay, do I do musical dance theater? What do I do? So I did the logical thing and I went to beauty school because that made sense. Actually, so I was a really young mom. And so it's like, okay, so I'm just going to go to beauty school. I know I can do that. I can have young kids. I'm just going to do that and always plan to go back. My husband is a sculptor. He's a beautiful, wonderful, brilliant sculptor. And so I just was helping him do his sculpting, helping him with molding and with pre-production for pre-molding for mass production. I mean, all sorts of things in Asia. I mean, that was a big deal at the time. And one day I was driving my daughter home from work. And I'm sorry, not driving her home from work, driving her home from school. And as we were turning the corner to come into my neighborhood, she said, "Mom, sometimes I get the feeling that I'm going to die or that you're going to die." And I could not even in my mind wrap myself around the idea of losing her. So the first thing I said is, well, first of all, sweetheart, you're not going to die. But if I were to die, would I still love you? And she said, yes. And I said, would I still be your mommy? And she said, yes. And I said, would we still be a family forever? And she said, yes. And then I started to say, and when the wind blows, it will be me whispering to you that I love you. And when the rain falls and the snow falls on your cheeks, it will be me sending you kisses. And I will be there even if you can't see me. And little did I know that I was giving myself advice. Because 2 weeks later, and at that same corner, she was hit by a car. And she lived one more day. And I'm grateful for that one more day that I got to have with her, because I got to hold her and love her and kiss her and send her on her way to the next life. But as traumatic as that was, and that's, I mean, I would never wish that on anyone. That's just, I would just never wish that on my worst enemy. So, but setting that aside, the thing is that we also were impacted financially because of her passing. Because at the time, being self-employed, helping my husband with his sculpting studio, we did not have any life insurance in place. And I didn't have any health insurance. So financially, it was completely debilitating. And everything that we had worked up for 16 years of marriage was gone. And we found ourselves starting over. And the reason grief, additionally, it was very difficult for my husband, who's a sculptor. It was just, it's such an emotional thing to sculpt. And so he was dramatically impacted by that and decided that he couldn't even sculpt anymore. So our family went through all sorts of financial adjustments and had to just completely shift. And I think that there were times in our lives where there are these pivotal moments where there was life before and there's life after. With divorce, there was life before and then there's life after, and it completely changes. With me, it was before my daughter passed and trying to get life on after and trying to still show my other 4 kids that life is still okay. Life can be beautiful. We can get through this, and trying to show some leadership there. So I realized that we needed to dig ourselves out of this. And I had family members, wonderful family members, that just told me to take out bankruptcy. And I would never judge anyone for having to make that decision. I mean, that is just incredibly difficult decision. But for me, it wasn't an option. I just wanted to figure out how I could move forward, and decided that I needed to go back to school. It was time for me to head back to school. And I realized that I needed to learn two things. The first one was I needed to learn business because I had done it wrong. We had just done it wrong. And the second thing that I realized that I needed to learn was I needed to learn how to make money work for me. And it was with those two objectives that I went back to school. And I had no idea what I was going to go into. I just knew that I needed to learn those two things. And so that was what sent me back to school, was to be able to take care of my family and learn what I needed to learn so that this sure as heck wasn't ever going to happen. So that was the impetus to move forward. And I think that with those times, with those choices that we make, we almost come to a fork in the road where we decide if we're going to let that moment, that pivotal moment, destroy us, or we're going to let it make us better. And that was where I was at when I went back to school. And
Well, and something that is standing out to me as you're saying this is your two goals, your two whys, so to speak, right? What is my why to do this?
yeah,
And you said, I didn't know what was going to come from it. I didn't know what I was going to end up actually doing professionally, but these two whys are what led you to take that next right step just at that right time. And I think sometimes what keeps a lot of us from moving forward and just taking that one step is we often think we have to have everything else figured out. And so
yeah,
I really like what you're saying, and just this example of you didn't have all the things figured out, but by taking just that one step, knowing what your why was, put you in position to be open to what might be next.
yeah. I completely agree. And the idea of being stagnant
Hmm.
wasn't something that I was willing to entertain, because I didn't like that place that I was in. Right. So it's like, okay, I need to be able to move forward somehow. I do not want to be destroyed by this
Yeah.
because I am too young and I've got 4 kids. I've got a husband and 4 kids. And
Yeah.
so we've got to move this. We've got to move this forward. And along those same lines, uh, I had this moment about 3 weeks after my daughter had passed, and I was in the bedroom and I was folding laundry. And I hate folding laundry. So I was you're in there like, I'm irritated that I'm folding laundry, and that I was heartbroken that I wasn't folding her laundry. And I was talking to God in my mind, and sharing and being frustrated and hurting, and I had this thought come to my mind, and it just said, Jennie, tell you what, I'm going to take this all away. I realize that losing Chase has been absolutely excruciating for you. So tell you what, we're going to go back in time. I'm going to take all of this away, and I'm going to make it so that you never, ever have to lose a child. And I will just give Chase to somebody else. And that thought was profound to me. Not that I really thought that God could do that, but just the thought process of having that conversation. And when that moment came, and the thought of, I'll just give Chase to someone else, I immediately said, no, I choose. If this is what it means for me to have my daughter with me and to be her mom, then I take this and I take it gladly. And it was somewhat empowering in some ways, because it became my choice. So if this is the crap I have to go through to be able to have her as my daughter, then I choose it. And when I realized that I could come from a point of I'm choosing this, then it was so much more, it gave me so much more strength to be able to move forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that makes
Well,
sense.
it makes so much sense. And energetically speaking, you literally access a different, that anabolic energy, right?
Yeah.
You'll literally access a different level of energy in your body when you step into choice, into agency, into empowerment. Otherwise, we do fall into that lower level that pulls us down, that victim
Yeah.
stuck, trapped energy. And one isn't right or wrong or good or bad, but one will move you forward. And so what I'm hearing you say is that just that shift in your own brain helped you readjust the energy in your entire system.
Oh, it was one of those moments. It was like, okay, we can do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
That and while I was in school, I fell in love with 2 studies. One was economics and one was for personal financial planning. I took a
Mm,
class at the request of one of my professors, just an intro to personal financial planning, and I fell in love.
mm,
And I realized that this is where I needed to be and that I could help others so that they didn't have to endure the pain that I had to when I had to rebuild. And there are lots of reasons why we have to rebuild. But if I can help someone be able to move forward with that so that they don't have to deal with it, then it is so crazy rewarding for me. And I absolutely love what I do for that reason. And it's also a reason why I love to be able to serve women because understanding what it's like when you have a family and you have kids and you've got to figure out a way to be able to move your family forward. And
and I know that's speaking to all of my listeners who the majority of them, this financial pressure to provide and to support their children is landing on them and them alone. Many don't have that support, or many are in the middle of a fight over the financial complexities around that come with divorce and child support and alimony. And I know my situation, a lot of my listeners know, but I mean, even though that was put into place legally, it didn't mean that he chose to follow the law and found very creative ways to avoid the law. And so I very relatably found myself in that same stuck place and victim mentality, really, of like, I can't, I'll never, because I wasn't getting any of that help. And just shifting that energy into, okay, I will figure this out. I don't need to use all of my energy to make him do something that he will not ever has never chosen to do. I will figure this out. And you access that level of choice, again, choice, agency, empowerment. I call it agent power mode. Like,
yeah,
let's go.
yeah,
That is when ideas came. That's when I saw different options. And so many women, those of you who are listening to this, I just want to validate the space that I know many of you are feeling of, I don't even know where to start. I don't know how to do this. I'll never, I can't. Really just want to hold space for that. And I know sometimes hearing stories of women that figured it out can can sometimes feel daunting because it's like, well, why am I not figuring it out? What's wrong with me? And God's not talking to me. So I also want to validate this space that I know a lot of you are in of, I'm not figuring it out and I'm not getting my answer. That's okay too. Own where you're at right now. I don't know when it happens. A lot of, and I don't know if women come to you sometimes, like, when is this going to click? And when is this, am I going to feel the financial freedom? And sometimes it's like, I don't know when, but I know that if you apply these principles, it will come.
yeah. It absolutely will. And the thing is that when when you're going through a divorce, there's a level of grief that you go through. There was grief that I went through and that I do go through for my little girl. And apologize if my voice was a little softer, but it's still very tender to me. And it will always be tender.
Yeah, of
And
course.
and I think it's important to be able to just allow ourselves to go through that grieving process and not judge ourselves, allow ourselves a little grace.
Mhm.
And I think it's only as you do allow yourself grace that you're going to be able to say, okay, I can breathe. And in a minute, I can take a step forward. But right
Yeah,
now, I just need to be where I'm at for a second. And that's okay.
yeah,
And
for
nothing.
sure.
Yeah. So,
So some of these, I was talking about principles, and when we understand the principles of whether it's principle of healing, right, the principle of healthy relationships, you were talking about earlier the economic principles that you feel would be really beneficial. Do you want to share some of those that you've seen?
Yeah, I would love to. Like I said, I found economics as I was going through school, and it just sang to me. I love that through math
Why
and
you do what you do and I do what I do. I hated economics.
so I'm like something. Well, the beauty of math is that it's not emotional. That is something beautiful about math. So if we're just willing to get into the place where we can look at numbers, then we can develop a plan for moving forward. And if we can understand some economic principles and understand how it impacts us emotionally, then we can also make decisions. So 3 economic principles that impact us every single day. You may not realize it, but it impacts us every single day. We deal with this all the time. So we're just going to bring these up and talk about it. And just so that we're aware that, hey, that the universe is pushing these principles on us here. So the first one, and this, honestly, this is the name of the principle. Here it is. Ready? The more is better principle. That is a true economic principle. So let's discuss that for just a minute. The more is better principle simply says that if given 2 options for the same price, a person will naturally choose whichever one is bigger or more. So if I can buy 1 TV for $200, or I can buy 2 TVs for $200, exactly the same, what one are we're going to choose? We're going to choose 2. So there is nobody better at this than children. So really, all you moms out there, here we go. You offer your kids 2 cupcakes, one, a small one and a big one. Which one are they going to choose? They're going to choose the big one. And even if you hand them you show them a plate with small cookies and a big cookie, they will choose the big cookie because they know instinctively that more is better. So Amie, if I were to say, Amie, I'm going to give you either $1 or $10, which would you choose?
Yeah, heck yeah, give me 10.
Give me 10. And if I were to say, hey, I'll give you $10 or $100, which would you choose?
Give me 100.
100 or $100 or 1,000?
Give me 1,000.
Why? And why is that?
It's more.
More is better.
Yep.
More is better. It is in our divine makeup that we are always wanting to expand and grow and create. And part of that is because this more is better principle is inside of us. It's inherent inside of us. So in short, if I were to put this in kind of one little phrase, here it is: we want it all. In a nutshell, we want it all because more is always better. Okay. So that's principle number 1.
Okay.
Principle number 2. Here we go. Now is better than later. That is principle number 2. It's the now is better than later principle. And let's just go over that for just a second. So, Amie, I can give you $10 now, or if you want to wait a year, we can come back to this podcast and I will give you $11. So what would you like to choose?
Well, with my growth mindset, I will wait a year. Just kidding. But no, now we want that now. We want the fix now. We want the weight loss now. We want the healing now. This is what I see a lot. I mean, I can't tell you how many times women will come and say, just give me the answer now. I just
Give me a tough little skill.
Just tell me, give me the answer. Give me help me not feel the pain and make all of that. I want the healing, the happy, the joy now.
Yep.
Yes.
That's
very instinctive and
absolutely. And I love that you spread that out into other areas as well. In finance, I mean, I was offering you, I will say, I love that you said that you would wait. 99 other people will say, give me the $10 now.
Right? Yeah.
I'd have
my 17-year-old son. He's like, give it now. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll see you in a year. I have no idea. And I was offering you a 10% rate of return for waiting. Yeah. That is a big number. I mean, that's what everybody loves. Would love to have 10%. But we want it now. So if we look at finance, and there is an industry out there that was built upon this principle. It is the credit industry. Credit cards. The credit industry is built on this. We would rather have it now and pay interest, we're willing to pay more to have something now than wait.
Yep.
The whole industry is built on that.
Yeah.
So isn't that interesting that that's one of those little tricks, again, built in our DNA, that we want things now, we want it now, and society tells us that we can, and the credit industry tells us that we can have it now.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't always see the small print of, with interest rates. And if you've seen credit card interest rates lately, oh my gosh, they're crazy high. So credit industry built on this. People would rather have it now, pay more, and instead of learning to just wait. Now, at the same time, we can flip that and understand that if we're willing to wait, we can earn interest and not pay interest, right? So that's where we want to start to kind of shift our mind. But that now is better. I'm sorry, that now is better than later principle. If we were to put that into one little short phrase, it's basically we want it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So the first principle, we want it all. Next principle, we want it now. And who can blame us? We all do, right? Can't blame anybody for that. So that's where this third financial principle comes into play. And it is with here we go. Resources are limited. We have to make trade-offs, right? So everybody, it doesn't matter who they are out there, everyone is limited in some sort of way. Now, I'm not talking not having an abundance mindset. I am just talking about realistically understanding that there are limited resources that we deal with. There's limited time, limited talent, limited money, limited help, limited support. In some ways, we're always trying to deal with these resources that are limited. And so what do we have to do? We have to make choices. We have to make decisions. And in economics, we call them trade-offs. But we have to make these trade-offs. So Amie, if I give you $10 to go to the store and buy milk and bread, you can buy $10 of milk, you can buy $10 of bread, or you can buy any combination in between. But you cannot go to the store and buy $10 of milk and $10 of bread because you're limited, because all you have is that $10. So having an understanding of, we want it all, we want it now, but I have to look at my limited resources and make really good choices. And having that understanding of really what are all of these pressures that are coming around me, and yet being able to say, you know what, I'm just going to be still and make those correct decisions. Does that make sense there?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It's huge. And when we can get our head around being able to say, I'm willing to make a trade-off, I'm willing to make a choice, then we can start building, because then we're starting to actually empower yourself, because you're being able to have the confidence to be able to say no. And that's huge. That's huge, to be able to start to make that decision. No, I'm not going to go and purchase this thing on credit. I am going to save. I am going to save for an emergency fund, to have that in place. I am going to delay some of my gratification so that I can have something in the future. Those are some trade-offs that we have to start to decide. And if we are just understanding just the basics of things, and if we do just have $10 that we're going to go to the store and buy, then we need to be really careful with that and say, okay, I'm just going to buy this much bread and this much milk with my $10, because then I've got both bread and so that's.
And as you're saying this, of course, my brain's going to the psychological part of it.
Yeah.
Right. And the emotional part of it. Right. It reminds me of that study that was done years ago with children, and the patients study. They put like a marshmallow in front of them, and they said, if you wait, you wait until I come back and don't eat the marshmallow, then I'll give you two. It's really the psychological aspect that is behind everything that you're saying. That's, of course, jumping out to me. Surprise, surprise. But that leads me to just ask you about more of that emotional relationship that we have with money. You were talking earlier about money personality, and I think a lot of that has to do with the psychological and emotional aspect behind money.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's this great little book called The Five Money Personalities, and I'll go into Amazon. I was going to try to have it pulled up.
We actually have the link. I'm gonna put the link again in the show notes, but
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
when Melissa came on to talk about money, it's been over a year, so this is an old episode, ladies. I know that link was in there, but it's gonna be in these show notes as well. But yeah, really a great book, great
Yeah.
reference.
Very, very fun to look at. But
Yeah.
I think that what it does is it just helps us understand our own relationship with money.
Mhm.
Because if we can know how money impacts us, how it affects us, what our relationship is, our internal dialogue with money, and we understand those three basic economic principles, it really helps to remove emotion out of the equation so that we can make sound financial decisions. And
Yeah.
and and when we can remove emotion, that's going to help us. And that's so hard because
Oh, so hard.
grief is hard and living is hard. And sometimes we just need a chocolate. Sometimes we just want to just have something to make us feel better. And it's hard. It's not easy, but if we can understand it, then we can start moving forward. So
Yeah.
there were five kind of money personalities, and we'll go over those. And generally everyone falls into a dominant and then a kind of a recessive. So generally have two that are kind of working for you. And they are a saver, a spender. And I'm pulling all of these up. A risk taker, a security seeker, and a flyer. So we're going to kind of talk about each one of those and how to kind of deal with it, especially when you've got conflicting personalities working in your psyche, which is what I have. So the first money personality is a saver. So savers love getting deals. And if they're going to walk into the store, where's the first place we go? And see, I'm a natural saver, so I'm just going to fully admit this. We're going to walk back to the sale item, to the clearance rack. That's the first place that I go. We love it. We're going right back there. Love the term budget. If there's something that says save or sale or discount, it just sings to our soul. I just love that idea. And this is totally me. So one example is after Christmas, I wanted to go to Best Buy to buy a TV screen for my office so that I could be able to project things onto the TV screen for clients. And I was planning on purchasing a TV. I knew how much I wanted to spend and went into Best Buy. I found the TV that I wanted. It was within the price. I went after Christmas because I was going to hit the after Christmas sale because sale speaks to me. And I went up to pay for the TV. And as I went up to pay for the TV, they asked me, well, do you have a mount for the TV? And I'm like, no. And he showed me a quick mount and I, it was so, I mean, they wanted to charge over $100 for this mount. And I couldn't even, I was so shocked. I couldn't even go there. I bought the TV, but I couldn't buy the mount because I had not prepared myself. So what did I do? While I was there after I paid, I went on Walmart and I found a mount on walmart.com that I could get for $15 and I bought that because I could not, it was painful for me to part with that money that I had not planned for. So the pros on having a saver personality is you're trustworthy with money. You're going to avoid too much credit card debt. You don't want to squander things away, that naturally inherent with you. The cons on this is that you can be a little bit miserly. Let's be honest. It's painful to part with money. You can be a total fun killer if you're doing something and all of a sudden money comes into play. And I do that. I will do that all the time. And my husband is a natural spender. So I will be with him and we'll be doing something with our little grandkids and something will come up that's a little bit more than I expected. And he can see my eyes get big and I take a deep breath and he's like, I got it. I'm going to pay for it. Okay. because it's just painful to part with that. So very trustworthy, great. Savers are good, but we come with our cons as well. So we can be a little bit miserly that way. So the next money personality is a spender. So spenders, my husband is a spender. Very generous people. Spenders are by far the most generous out there. They're going to be the ones that are going to pick up the tab when you're going to lunch with a friend. They take joy in spending money. It gives them a thrill to be able to part with that and get something. And it doesn't even matter if you are shopping yard sales or you're shopping at the dollar store or we're shopping at Neiman Marcus. It doesn't even matter. The thrill is the same, that you're looking for something that you love, that you can get enjoyment out of, and you enjoy being able to part with those dollars to be able to get something to make happy. They're decorating their house. I mean, they're going to enjoy doing all of that. They don't love restrictions. So here's the hard thing about spenders. Restrictions aren't good. So we can't use the term budget. Budget does not work with a saver. With a spender. We have to have a spending plan. A spending plan works because with a spender, we need to know I can spend $50 a month on whatever I want. That's a spending plan for them. A saver, that's going to make them nervous. They need to know, okay, I'm constricted to $50 a month. Let's see. It's just the internal dialogue there.
Yeah, well, that's the psychological and the emotional.
There you go. You're exactly right. It all comes back. So spenders the most generous, but tend to make some impractical decisions. Sometimes you can be impulsive with your spending, and not be very practical in some of the things. So you have to be careful there. And there is no right or wrong on any of these. They're just, each one of them comes with their own set.
There's 50-50.
Yep, exactly.
50-50 with all of it.
There's, and like I said, spenders are by far the most generous of all the money personalities. Are the most generous. Okay, so now let's look at our security seeker. So a security seeker doesn't have a problem spending money as long as it's durable, well made, it's going to last forever.
This is my husband.
Security seekers. And let's talk. Security seekers.
Yeah. He's had things for over 20 years, over 30 years. Oh yeah,
but it's going to last forever. Is never.
Oh yeah. And if something he does buy thinking it's quality and it doesn't last up, oh look out. Well, you will hear about it, that it did not hold up to the level of quality in years that he expected that to hold up.
Yeah. Security seekers are also going to be the planners.
Oh,
yeah. If you go on vacation, they're going to have everything planned day by day, know exactly what they're going to do. Security seekers are planners. You need to have a plan there. If you go to a restaurant, they're going to order the same thing every time if it's a restaurant that you've been to before, because they know it, they like it, they know that they will enjoy it, and there's no risk there. No risk that they won't like it. Right? So you're laughing.
I'm just dying laughing because yeah. Same thing.
Yeah. So the good things about a security seeker: stable, trustworthy, good planners, good investigators. If you're going to make a purchase, they're going to look at all the pros and cons on everything. And Amie, that leads me to the con of that. So the con of a security seeker is that you're going to be paralysis through over.
Oh my gosh. Paralysis of analysis and procrastination.
There you go. There's your security seeker.
Buy the damn boots. I know.
So the other kind of con on a security seeker is they can have a proclivity to be a little bit negative sometimes because they're so worried. They want to make sure that it's so right. That's how they tend to jump over to thinking negative thoughts. So we have to overcome that fear of that. And that's the same with spending as well. That kind of fear of getting it wrong. Like your husband said, buy the damn boots. Yeah. But security,
it's the same boot you buy every year. Anyway, sorry. Yes, this is resonating.
Okay. All right. Next money personality, risk taker. So a risk taker, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So this is your entrepreneur, your big picture, your visionary. I'm willing to sacrifice now for something bigger in the future. And they're willing to look at new restaurants, willing to try new things, willing to try almost anything. So this is the secondary part of my person. So it's a little bit rough. So I'm constantly conflicted because I want to save unless it's something that I can risk. I don't know. I'm always conflicted inside my head, but the risk takers are excited by words of potential upside and opportunity and something that's new. Like I said, risk takers are very, very visionary. So if we're looking for that, our relationship with money, willing to sacrifice now for the future, but at the same time, you have to be careful because if you're looking at investments, and you're willing to do something really risky, well, you might lose everything. So you need to be really, really careful if you're a risk taker and you're looking to invest in things that you really do have a good financial planner who's going to help you mitigate your risk a little bit by diversifying some things out. Okay, some of the cons on it sometimes are very impatient. Tend to be maybe not considerate of others. If our money personality is something like, well, I'm just willing to risk it for the biscuit, but we've got other people in our lives that are risk takers. That are security seekers. Then we need to understand where they're coming from. Right? So, last personality is called a flyer, and I just love flyers. Basically, they're not emotionally attached to money at all. So relationships are very, very important to a flyer. And it's not that they are irresponsible with money, but they're unresponsible with money. So if we're a flyer, that relationship with that friend means everything. So if it costs us $50 to go and be with that friend, fine. If it costs us $500 to be with that friend, fine. Costs us $5,000 to be with that friend, fine. Because we just don't, because that relationship really just doesn't exist. It just doesn't mean anything. So we're just not attached. We're not emotionally attached to it. So the flyer is very creative, which is wonderful. I mean, think of the artist in the Airstream trailer along the side of the road that's selling their art. They're willing to let me back up, tend to be just very happy and content. They enjoy what they have. They don't necessarily have to have anything more. That more is better principle weighs less on them than any other money personality. Because they don't have to prove anything. They're just more outwardly focused on relationships. The con is because they're not emotionally attached, it can lead you to make some bad decisions financially. You can be poor planners for the future because we're just living in the now and just going with it, tend to be a little bit more disorganized. But if you want a relationship with someone, man, a flyer is going to be there for you.
That is so funny. That makes sense.
Constantly. So
I can see how, and those of you listening, I'm sure, are identifying with one or multiple of these. And like you shared, I think that there can be aspects that we can relate to maybe in all of them. Finding one, attachment theory is coming to my mind. We have anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, but we can have a little bit of both in different areas with different people. And so notice just what is standing out to you as you're listening to this, ladies, what resonates with you. And I think, again, why I love that you're sharing this is when you can understand yourself better. I mean, you listeners hear me say this all the time. Like when you turn inward and you see what's going on inside, it helps you to assess what's going on in your reality outside of you a little better. It helps you see things as they really are, which helps you get into that choice of what is the next right step. So even if it's painful to acknowledge some of these, Maybe there's a trauma response that you're having with one of them, right? If you're identifying with a spender, notice if there's any self-judgment coming up for any of these, and take a breath and really look at this from a more objective standpoint to help you recognize how you're showing up with money and how it might be limiting you from taking that step forward. I love how you I love how you shared the positives and the benefits, and the I don't wanna say negative because we interpret that psychologically
Maybe just
bad,
challenges.
no? Yeah, just like the opposite, right?
Yeah.
How can pull us away from maybe a goal. And so not bad or wrong, but just the challenges, I love that word, that
Yeah.
come with the benefits, and see how this is showing up for you as you think about your future and money wherever you're at, ladies, in your journey, whether you're preparing for divorce, whether you're in the middle of it, or whether you're post and you're trying to figure out what the next chapter looks like, retirement, and oh my gosh, how am I gonna grow old on my own income? I know there's so many different fears here, but
Yeah.
I really like that you're sharing these 5 things for us to be more self-reflective over and see how they're limiting us from moving forward.
Well, and also allowing yourself some grace to be
Mhm.
able to say this is my personality. And I had to allow myself a little grace when I realized that I'm a saver, but I'm also a risk taker. So
Yes.
that just means that I've got these two conflicting ideas that are going through my psyche every time I go to make a purchase.
Yeah.
And some people don't. Some people are like, you're a security seeker saver. Fantastic. You are all in alignment with you with that. I'm not. I'm continually conflicted. And that's okay. And just allow yourself to realize that this is where I'm at, and understand what I need to be able to succeed. So
Yeah.
if you're a spender, you don't need a budget. That will not work for you. A spending plan will work for you. So understand what is going to work for us, and let's start working around things that actually will work for us, that we
Yeah.
can work with and be able to move forward with. And when we understand that, and we understand how to apply that to those three economic principles, then we
Mhm.
can really start making some traction, and start feeling like we can move forward, and we can start looking at long term goals,
Right.
and start being able to really move forward.
Yeah, something else is coming to my mind too that I wanna highlight for a lot of my listeners. So, what I share with my listeners all the time, and a phrase that I use is, a life-saving divorce.
Yeah.
My listeners are those that have divorced due to betrayal, abuse that comes with betrayal, and other types of abusive behaviors that have led them to this choice or this experience of divorce when this has been part of their relationship. And so a lot, I mean, every day I see women that have experienced financial abuse as well as other types of abuse in their relationships. And so I would love for you to share any thoughts around how women who have this as part of their story and
Mhm.
emotional baseline, where fear, like, I'm getting emotional because it's, I think, just bringing up a lot of what I can resonate with part of my story. And I guess just looking at some of these personality traits, I'm also recognizing that the way that we experience money in that unhealthy, abusive relationship can really impact the way that you relate to money. And so I want to also hold space for that unraveling and rewiring that also needs to come when you have experienced financial control or abuse. And so, what would you say some of those first steps can be to help women shift into more of a financial empowerment state of mind?
Yeah. Yeah. Really, really good question. Well, the first one I already mentioned. Allow yourself some grace. You're you're going through grief, and grief is real, and it's okay. Now that's not an excuse for making dumb decisions. So we do want to move forward, and start to understand, and see if we can start making good financial decisions, but allow yourself some grace. I think that's huge. Rome wasn't built in a day, but taking little steps at a time, we can eventually turn things around. Thinking of other ways to move forward. Let me just start by saying it is possible. From someone who has been there now, I didn't lose a marriage, but in losing a child and in losing everything that I had built in my marriage and in that business and had to lose everything and had to start over, I will say that it is possible to not only to survive it, but to thrive and realize that life really is beautiful. There are so many things in this world that are just absolutely phenomenal. Now, you may not agree with the political landscape. You may not agree with stuff that's going on here and there. But if we look at life, life really is worth living. Life is just a beautiful experience. So with that possibility of knowing that you can do it, we can move forward. It is possible to not just survive, but thrive. So as we're looking at steps that we can start to put into place, number one would be to see if we can start to save a little bit of an emergency fund. I know that these are basic things. These are basic things. But if we can start saving an emergency fund, that will save us more as we are starting to get some traction and moving out, just about more than anything else.
I remember, no, you're so right. And I remember once I was divorced and in charge of my own money, and there was, like I mentioned, a lot of financial upheaval in my relationship. And there was a part of me that was very excited to be completely in charge of my own money and not have someone messing with it. And Dave Ramsey fan. And so this was one of the first things that I always wanted to do and felt so passionate about, but it was always draining. And so this was one of the first things I did. And again, very minimal. I mean, literally cleaning houses, scrubbing toilets, like started at the very bottom, building this business. And I wanted that emergency fund. And I would just, it was literally under my mattress emergency fund. I didn't even trust the bank to touch my money at the time, but I wanted to see tangibly this $1,000. That was what I decided I wanted, just $1,000 emergency fund. And I put it under my mattress.
Yeah.
Just would chuck little, as much 5 here, 2 here, and just put it, and watching that build.
And it builds.
And creating that. I mean, this word creator is just, I say it all the time. It's my mantra, but that being the creator of your life and creating this savings, this emergency fund, and watching that. Oh my gosh. Now I will also say my truck engine blew up and on my already used car that I bought, and I thought I was going to have to drain just like literally that week, I put my final $10 under my mattress
to get your $1,000.
To get my $1,000.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, and then my truck engine, like, of course, blows up. But I was so grateful. The long story, I ended up actually having a miracle and didn't need to use it. But I remember going in thinking, when I turned my truck in, thinking, okay, I am so grateful that I have it. I wish I could have hung on to it a little longer, but I'm so grateful that I had that when I had the car trouble. I was so proud of myself for putting that together. I did end up having a miracle and my engine didn't in fact blow up and it was fine and I got to keep that. But the principle of this, I have such, for lack of a better word, testimony of emergency fund. It does so much for you emotionally, psychologically, rather than actually having the money.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the day-to-day, just think, I would say that most of us might not have an engine blow up on a regular basis, but the brakes go out. Brakes go out all the time, right? So if we have an emergency fund, a $1,000 emergency fund, then all of a sudden the brakes go out. We don't have to put it on credit. We don't have to use the credit card to pay for those brakes because we know that we've got $1,000 and we can use that.
It's security.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are feeling such a lack of that security, secure attachment, Like, this is why I think I felt so emotionally tied to doing this. It provided that sense of security and safety where I didn't go into a trauma response. It was sad. It was hard. I was, oh man, but I didn't go into a full blown trauma response. And so I think just again,
Yeah.
I know I'm always bringing it back to the emotional, psychological part, but it really does serve this purpose as well. So I love that that's step one.
Yeah, yeah, and it just brings us a sense of peace.
Yeah.
Really, that's what
Yeah.
we're looking for, is that we wanna have a sense of peace. And isn't it interesting that money is not emotional? Money is neither positive nor negative,
Neutral.
but
Mhm.
everything around it can be emotional. So by deciding, just making the decision that I'm going to save $1,000 for an emergency fund, like you did, that unemotional decision had an impact, a positive emotional impact on you when your engine when your engine blew, or when the brakes go out, or
Yeah.
when the kids need something and there's a dentist appointment and we have to fill some cavities. Whatever the case is, and all of a sudden you start to feel less emotion with regards to those things. Like you said, it didn't trigger you fully because you knew that you had it.
Yeah.
And that just set. And
So dang
so
empowering. Yeah.
that's number one. It's just
Yep.
a little emergency fund. And you're a Dave Ramsey fan, so some of this is going to sound fairly familiar here. Number two, we're going to work on paying down some debt. We're going to assess where we are and be honest with it. And we're going to look at saying, you know what, we're going to do a debt snowball, and we're going to work on paying off that debt. And debt snowballs work great. There is a website called powerpay.org.
Mm.
That it is through Utah State University. They have this whole department built on helping you manage debt and set a budget.
What
And
a beautiful
it
resource.
is fantastic. Powerpay.org.
Love
And
it.
you do a debt snowball there. They have all sorts of resources there. It is free. So I would say go to powerpay.org, set yourself up an account, start to play around with some of those debts you have, because you can go, okay, well, if I pay just an extra $10,
Mhm.
how much faster does that debt get paid off?
Yeah.
You could
Oh, that snowballs are
all
fun.
sorts of
I'm going to
different.
put that link in the show notes, ladies. So if you're driving or walking, I'll have it in the show notes for you.
Yeah, perfect. We're gonna work on paying down some debt, and then at the same time that we're doing kind of number one and number two, we need to really assess what our income is, and what our resources are for income. Because if we've got good income, fantastic. If we need to go and get more education, then let's consider that as part of looking at what we need to do to move forward. I had to take a really good hard look and realize that, you know what? Working in a salon is great, but if I'm trying to just support a family, doing hair is probably for me was not cutting it. I mean, because that was the only skill that the only formal skill that I had. I realized that I needed to have more. And if I was doing hair, then I would need to double and triple book, or I needed to go into education for hair, or I needed to become a salon owner. So taking a good assessment at what you are, and looking at, do I need to level up my income? Do I need to look at other educational opportunities to be able to improve my skills so I can get a better job to be able to support my family? So that's kind of part of all of this as well. It's part of this assessment as we're looking through things.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and creativity is coming to mind as you're talking about this. And so I know there's so many women in different situations. Not everybody can go get, I mean, I wasn't in a position to go get further education. So it was more, how do I build a business? How do I create a business? And how do I get more business? And being creative and again, open-minded to different options that can feel really scary or hard, and still leaning into that creativity to expand how you make money. Ladies, that I just opened a Facebook group, like for those of you trying to earn more money creatively for Christmas. Maybe I know a lady that she's an amazing, I don't know what you call it, but she yarns and makes these darling animals. And out of yarn. I'm like, I don't even know how you do that, but they're so cute. And she does that to earn a little extra cash on the side. So like being creative with how you earn extra income is so possible. It takes tapping into that part of you. And I just want to remind all of you that you have creativity already within. You don't have to go get it. It is already there. So when you're trying to achieve this one, because this is a big one for so many, getting more income, with resources, got to tap into that part of your higher self with creativity.
I would agree. And just understand that getting more education doesn't always have to be formal education. You started your own business, but that doesn't mean that you didn't go and figure out how to run a business.
Exactly.
So there's all sorts of creative ways to do that. But I guess kind of my main point was, is there something that we can do about income? Do we need more? If we need more, then let's look at our options on how we increase that.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we're paying down debt, when we're getting our emergency fund in place, then we can start to look at resources available to start to put a little bit away. We can start maybe investing at that point. Do you have a 401k through work? Do you have a job that has one? If you do, then there's a good chance that there might be an employer match on that. And tapping into that little 401k and receiving that employer match is huge. So if you've got that available to you to look at, if there's let's say, for example, a 3% match, that means that for the first 3% of your income, if you're going to contribute that to your 401k, and then your employer is going to match 3%. So if I put in $10, the employer puts in $10, that's 100% rate of return instantly. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So that is one of the biggest things that you can do if it's available to you, is to tap into that. Don't want to leave any money on the table with 401ks.
And if not, because most don't have access to that, or that was taken.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. If that is not available to you, then there are other types of investment accounts that you can start to put away a little bit, such as a Roth IRA. Roth IRAs are fantastic. They're $10 to zero to get set up. Very, very inexpensive. You can just throw in a little bit of money. I saw one story. A gentleman was talking, and he just had his little mason jar, and he would fill it with his extra dollars and extra change. And then when it got full, he would go and he would invest it just with his mason jar. And he would send that over to his Roth IRA or to his investment account, just a little by little, and was able to build that up. It's amazing how fast those things can build up. And if you're interested in getting started with something like that, it doesn't take a lot of money, but it does take a little bit of help. So I would recommend talking with a financial planner so that you can share what your situation is, and they can help you get an IRA set up. And there are financial planners out there, financial advisors that will help and that won't charge to come in and talk with them, won't charge to go ahead and get you set up on your account. And depending on how their fee structure works, it can be a very, very minimal, just small little tiny percentage. So very affordable there. And it all just starts with willingness to go and talk with a planner and have them help you.
I'm glad that you shared that expectation, because I think a lot of times the idea of reaching out to a financial planner, the first thought is, I don't have the money to pay someone to help me make money or save money. So I think that you planted that thought in their mind that there are planners out there that will do a free consult. Just let me hear your story, and not try to gouge you. There are plenty that do, but
there are plenty that do, and there are plenty out there that say, if you don't have $500,000, then I'm not going to work with you.
Yeah.
But There are many, many, many advisors out there that would be happy to consult and help get you started. So tap into those resources. A lot of times your local bank or credit union is a great resource as well.
Love it. Was there any other tips?
I think that the best thing that I could offer is what we just went through. Emergency fund, pay down debt, and talk with someone. And then just believe in yourself. You can do this.
Mm,
You got this.
Mm.
You can do this.
I think that just leads beautifully to, what I share at the end of every episode is that you are the creator of your life and you can create the life that you want because you can.
Absolutely possible.
Thank you for sharing the hope in that when it can feel so hopeless.
I think
And
that a lot of women can tend to underestimate what they can do in a few. Sometimes we overestimate what we can do in 1 year because we think, oh, we're just going to go and do it all at once, and then we get frustrated and then we give up. But you underestimate what you can do in 5. So just stick with it. You got this. You can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. We can do this.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing your heartfelt story and
Thank you for allowing me
these
the time.
wonderful, wonderful tips. And I know that I can feel the heart behind it. I can feel the care and the belief in these women. And so thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me today.
Of course, of course.